Hello and welcome to today's MuleSoft webinar entitled Building Digital Insurance Platforms for an Unrivaled Customer Experience. My name is Daniel Snowdon and I lead UK&I financial services and insurance marketing here at MuleSoft. So firstly, before we jump in, a quick safe harbour statement. We encourage you to make any purchasing decisions based upon current MuleSoft offerings rather than forward-thinking ideologies or thought leadership. And a couple of housekeeping items for the way. A recording of this webinar will be distributed via email within 24 hours of the live publication. Questions can be submitted at any time using the questions widget on the left-hand side. We encourage you to ask as many questions as possible and we will get to as many as we can at the end of the webinar. Please join in the conversation. Tweet us at #MuleTalks and let us know really what you think of the webinar. And finally, your feedback is critical for us to continuously improve these webinars. Please rate the webinar by selecting the survey widget at any point during today's webinar. So, as mentioned, my name is Daniel Snowdon and I lead UK&I financial services and insurance marketing here at MuleSoft. And I'm delighted to be joined by Angie Campos, that is the global lead for financial services and insurance here at MuleSoft and based in San Francisco, as well as Ben Turner, the CTO for Legal and General's GI division. So what are you going to get out of today's webinar? Well, firstly, mindset is key to digital transformation in insurance, and we'll be looking heavily into the role of culture in enabling your transformation. How building an insurance platform can better unlock access to data and increase productivity via a new reuse model, and create a unified customer experience across any channel. And finally, how a modular back-end approach and a new integration approach can truly enable a digital front-end via a standardized offering across any channel. So that's it from me, and let's jump into today's presentations. I'm now going to hand over to Angie Campos.
Hello everyone, this is Angie Campos, the Global Financial Services and Insurance Lead here at MuleSoft, and today I will be covering what is a digital insurance platform. But before I go into what a digital insurance platform is, I wanted to provide some industry context as to why digital insurance platforms are so important. Industry pressures today have created increased demands on IT and insurance, and a new operating model is required. Some of the paradigm shifts that are happening involved are threefold that we're seeing in our customer base. Increased share of digitally engaged customers. There's been a greater than 60% increase in the share of digitally active customers in the last 4 years, according to a report published by Bing. From an operational perspective, things are the status quo of what you would expect a key insurance process to be completed is radically changing. Claims experience will be measured in seconds instead of days soon enough. Policy underwriters will become sales executives, decision scientists, customer advocates, or innovators, creating a new space for them to become more revenue generating employees. And products and services are changing because of macro shifts in life expectancy and behaviors. By 2050, it's estimated that the auto insurance will shrink by 70%, according to insurancejournal.com. The number of people, the percentage of consumers that are open to using purchase usage-based insurance is over 80%, according to digin.com. And by 2050, the number of people over 100 will grow 1,000%, according to marketwatch.com. And what does this mean for IT and the insurance companies? Today, business and IT are synonymous. In order for a business to thrive in this digital era, IT projects are increasing to meet those digital demands. And so the most common initiatives that we see are customers and prospects partaking in are enhancements in policyholder engagement, and really I should say stakeholder engagement, because it also includes the agents, the service reps, the policyholders, partners. In addition, we are seeing a lot of activity in operational excellence, so driving operational excellence by unlocking data and automating processes, and the launch of new products and services through innovation and quickly adapting to insurtech disruptors, and not just adapting to them, but really partnering with them and changing an operating model so that those services, the capabilities that those insurtech disruptors provide can be brought internally to enhance products and services to the policyholders of traditional insurers. And there are multiple forces that are changing, that are causing a transformation imperative. There's an IT delivery gap. Digital experiences today are no longer produced by a single technology alone, but a multitude of technologies. And historically, traditionally companies connect all of these systems through custom code and really point-to-point integrations that require a lot of maintenance, high cost, subject matter experts to be readily available for every single project, but it is creating a bottleneck within the IT function. Innovation is everywhere. There are best-of-breed, hyper-specialized solutions coming out, being introduced by insurtechs. Companies must experiment and fail fast, or else they really can't keep up with the demands of the consumers. And lastly, ecosystems. Ecosystems are coming up everywhere. It's no longer about thinking or introducing just insurance products within the insurance space or platform or experience. It's about bundling value-added services together to create a more sticky experience that's more heavily embedded in the consumers' lives. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we talk to our insurance customers and we ask the CEOs, what are your mindsets for digital transformation? What's that ultimate vision? And we find ourselves coming across three strategic mindsets. The first one we call renovate. This is the traditional way of going about things, and I would say most companies sit here. They think about IT projects as siloed point projects, in a particular line of business. For example, improving policy underwriting for auto insurance versus home insurance versus pet insurance. Elevate is then the next step or the next mindset that we are commonly seeing, and these are the ones that are really set up for success, and I would say that this should be the status quo. It's about creating a unified omni-channel experience that is consistent across lines of businesses, across channels, so that policyholders can self-serve, agents have a single view of the customer, and really that transition from renovate to elevate here is about identifying capabilities and data that can be shared across lines of businesses within the confines of that insurance company. So, for example, if you have information about your customer, identification information, all your lines of businesses should be able to use it. If you have information about their household, their products, their home, their families, their pets, their cars, you should be able to proactively take that data and be able to quote them for a product that best meets their needs, regardless of whatever channel or line of business that consumer policyholder is engaging with. And lastly, transcend. And this is for the most visionary companies, but I think with that jump from elevate to transcend, it becomes much easier than it would be than compared to the jump from renovate to elevate. Because the big jump from renovate to elevate is really this idea of reuse and sharing and thinking about data and processes as our data, our capabilities, rather than my line of business data or my product business. And once you think about transcend, the concept of reuse is there, where you can take services that maybe others introduce and bring them into your platform to create a more bundled experience that is more sticky to that policyholder. So, for example, State Farm recently had one of the largest numbers of employees getting certified for financial advisory services because they realize that whoever owns the relationship or the advice owns the product sell. And so by getting more embedded into their consumers' lives by providing financial services, they can also, by the way, offer an insurance product. Haggerty is the same way. They are a specialty specialty auto insurance company that is now transforming themselves into a premium car membership experience that happens to sell insurance. And there are other examples, Legal in General, has a phenomenal vision, as well as execution on that vision around a product that they've introduced, not only directly to policyholders, but as a capability that they can reuse to penetrate new markets through new partnerships and channels. But like I said, the jump from renovate to elevate is the most significant because it takes what it requires is a completely new operating model where you're no longer thinking about lines of businesses, but a shared organization. The traditional organization in insurance has grown up aligned by product. And so you'll often see data and system and processes, channels and organization for, let's say, property and casualty business. And you may even find sets of data, systems, processes, channels, organization for home insurance versus car insurance versus pet insurance, et cetera, et cetera. And you also have some insurance companies also have life insurance businesses, and et cetera, et cetera. And what you end up finding yourselves in are organizational silos, duplicative systems and data, common source of truth. To really create that single view of the customer is near impossible because data duplication is everywhere. Processes are separated by product and channels. And so what this means on digital transformation efforts is that the fragmentation of systems prevent a single view, that truly unified experience, the ability to automate processes and unify your channels. And innovation is really stuck at that product level rather than around a true customer-centric vision. And ultimately, this results in an IT gap. And so what the digital insurance platform does is it moves away the walls of that line of business silo and places a platform that everybody in the organization has access to, so that you have through this platform, a common source of truth for your systems and your data, system functionality and your data. The lines of businesses have access to that data and are able to orchestrate processes and capabilities by bundling those things together. And those processes, capabilities are also packaged up and reusable across the organization to create standardized services that are centered around the customer and that can be used consistently across your channels to have unified channels and a unified organization. And really MuleSoft's point of view, the vehicle to do that is the API. An API is, the modern API, we like to call it, is specifically structured so that it works with a platform that can be tracked, monitored, development is streamlined. You are able to apply security standards at groups of APIs or specific APIs, and you're able to really track who's accessing your data so that you don't have to worry about your network being compromised. At the very top is the API contract. It's not like anybody is getting information about your policyholder or your customer. They have to provide specific context to get that information. There's logic in there that should align to your integration product, and connectivity should not be an issue whether you're on-premise or in the cloud. Your infrastructure should not limit you and your digital transformation ambitions. And like I said, this really involves an operating model transformation. It's not just the API that enables this operating model transformation. It's a process and the right technology to enable the sharing of those APIs that help the company move away from the thought of my data or my line of business to our shared policyholders' data. And I mentioned the process around this operating model, and what we referred to this as is API-led connectivity. I talked a little bit about how the digital insurance platform moves away from the line of business or product-centric approach and into a shared common platform where data across the organization is unlocked and made available to the lines of businesses. And that we call the system APIs, usually unlocked by central IT to then federate access to those assets. Then the lines of businesses will take those system APIs and bundle them into groups to create process APIs, or those reusable capabilities. They're doing this through discovery and reuse of assets that central IT has already unlocked. They don't have to rebuild these integrations. And lastly, those processes and those systems are available and reusable to internal and external developers who are looking to create different experiences by channel. They'll take the output of the process or the system API and deliver it appropriately, whether it's a 3-inch mobile phone screen or a 10-inch laptop screen, and without having to be exposed to the complexity of how those capabilities or how the data was accessed, they can rapidly deliver new digital experiences. And last part of this digital operating model is that technology. MuleSoft is really the only platform on the market that enables the organization to manage everything from design, development, deployment, and management of APIs. It completely integrated with a collaborative library that drives reuse and drives this operating model of sharing. It's built on a lean runtime that has over 99.99% availability, and you're able to scale your integrations across your deployment environments. And lastly, before I close, I'd like to just point out that as you are undergoing digital transformation yourselves, in line with the vision that we've outlined for you in those 3 categories, as you think more about getting into the elevate and the renovate mindsets, what you should really consider in your integration platform are 5 key capabilities. You want to be able to have support for a full API and integration lifecycle and a common tool that enables that full experience from end to end. You need to have that self-service and collaboration model and tool to enable that. A future-proof architecture, because your infrastructure should not limit you, whether you're on premise now and you want to move to the cloud later, or you operate a hybrid deployment model. You should be able to control your destiny. Security should be built into every facet of the platform. And lastly, a way to develop or engage your developers, whether they're internally, externally, is a really key portion. So that is it for me. Thank you very much. And I will pass it on to our next speaker.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Angie. Delighted to be here today. I want to talk about L&G GI's strategy for winning in the API economy. As has been mentioned already, my name's Ben Turner. I'm the CTO for the general insurance business at L&G. A little bit more about L&G GI. L&G has been in the business providing insurance in the UK since 1836, and today has multiple general insurance lines. We deal with household insurance, pet, landlords, or buy-to-let, you might know it as, in lifestyle, and other on-demand insurances as well. More recently, I'd say we've been known for a digital insurer. We've won multiple awards, we've got a diverse range of products, and we operate across multiple channels. Some of those channels being kind of B2C, the broker world, affinities, intermediaries. I think what we have to say, though, is at the heart of everything we do is the customer, whether that's being in the new offerings or the touch points for the customers or the ecosystem we're creating. The partners and suppliers are always in that. Now, I've mentioned that we've won several awards for being a digital insurer in the last 12, 18 months, and mainly, that's mainly due to us switching to a kind of digital first approach. I think it's really key and really important to us, and it's reflected heavily in our organisational vision for what general insurance wants to be known for. Firstly, we've committed to bringing in new technology, taking the best out there and using it both internally and externally for ourselves and our customers. And we class ourselves as using kind of the best in breed technology in that respect. We've begun investing in automation and RPA where it's appropriate. I think there's certainly some places where you can be used, and there's others that it can't, but we certainly are starting to use it more and more. We've also started investing in the kind of as a service model, where not only are we offering insurance as a service, We're also looking to consume services more readily available and driving value through some of these things. We're also looking at how you use big data. I think it's key in this world today. There's so many data sources out there that can be harnessed and used to drive better information and decision making. And I think this is kind of reflected in the generation that we're now starting to see emerge, the always-on generation. It's a kind of changing world, and I think we need to embrace all of these things to help drive the products of the future. So as Angie's mentioned, the insurance industry, in my opinion, and many others, is ripe for change, and I tend to categorise these main drivers, I think, or changes into 4 pillars, and it's certainly what I've been seeing in GI and the digital first approach we've been taking. Firstly, and I would say this, but more importantly to me, technology. There's a great deal of technology out there today, and I think using and utilising some of those emerging technologies, as well as embracing them, rather than running away, is really key. It's really important that you kind of help drive yourself and those successes through those technologies. I think secondly, culture. Culture is one of those really big things, I think, certainly in the FS sector, but definitely in insurance. And what I experienced when I first joined was a view of this is how it's always been done, this is how it should be done, which kind of drives a lot of resistance to change and kind of embracing some of those technologies that I mentioned earlier. I think helping the business to understand the benefits when you kind of drive some of this technology into your business is really important, and helping to drive the change in that culture. It's really key, I think. The competition, it's evolving, and I think it really rapidly in that regard as well. There's new players emerging in the market, and they're all embracing, certainly from my point of view, new technologies and better ways of doing things. They don't have legacy systems to kind of get rid of necessarily. And even in the more older businesses, they're kind of, I'm seeing them embrace technology, and I think, like I said, the competition is certainly changing and evolving as demands of the day today go through, and the customer, what they expect, it's kind of all coming through. And finally, I kind of touch on there the customer experience. I think the expectation from the customers today is that it's always on. We live in a world where everyone picks up their mobile phones. If you look down your train carriage, you're going to see everyone using their mobile device. Very very rarely you see people not on their phones. And I think that's that expectation, the always on, the 24/7 kind of generation. That's definitely where I think we're kind of heading. And I think you need to be driving change in your organisation to help be at that forefront as well. So one of the technology approaches we looked to leverage to drive change across GI was APIs. Prior to our partnership with MuleSoft, we used to rely heavily on P2P. And what this really meant was that every time we needed to integrate a new system to something, or whatever it was in that respect, we had to kind of do it again and do it again and do it again. And it drove a lot of inefficiency in there, and also meant we were kind of reinventing the wheel every time we did it, rather than kind of taking the good learnings from the first time or the second time, which is kind of why, I guess, or the biggest driver why we changed, why we looked to kind of start working in a new way, because it definitely isn't sustainable to keep doing that point-to-point integration. And it also means that you potentially could fall behind, I think, the competition and what they're doing. Simplifying integrations across your organisation, therefore, is really key, and our approach can be broken down into kind of 2 separate buckets in that space, I think. Firstly, there's the kind of internal element where we're kind of eating our own dinner, if you like, whereas before we used to use custom integration or always kind of recreating that integration. We're now using APIs to standardise those integrations across the business, driving those internal efficiencies, reducing organisational silos, enabling a better access to systems and data and other services that other teams are creating. Those APIs are really helping in that internal kind of battle and really definitely making it a much easier world to operate in. Secondly, we're utilising external APIs to create kind of an insurance ecosystem around us. By doing so, we're now able to plug in a variety of different partners, whether those are affinity partners or intermediaries, brokers, it doesn't really matter, even the insurtechs. We're able to integrate with them all, and actually it drives a far better, I think, understanding of what you're trying to achieve in the market if you're using these new technologies and, as I said, API to help drive those efficiencies. That's kind of the way of the world these days, in my opinion. So, as I mentioned, we've been using APIs for some time now, and one of the first journeys we thought about using the API wraparound, certainly for external use, was SmartQuote. We kind of wanted to offer SmartQuote as an API journey. And for those that don't know, SmartQuote is a shortened question set product which asks 5 questions and provides a quote for home insurance. It's a much simpler journey, and that's kind of the direction of travel we think the insurance market will go in. And certainly we're seeing a lot of benefits from that, and great feedback from customers. As you can imagine, for the customers though, it clearly simplifies their journey. It means it's a lot easier. The questions we're asking are very simple things: their address, their personal details, their email address, type of insurance, have they any claims. It's really easy. And that's kind of why we decided this was the best product for us to put APIs over as a starter. I think you can kind of see from leading on for SmartQuote, one of the reasons why we chose that product, like I said, was because of the simplified journey. Actually, our intermediaries really found that attractive. A simplified offering, a way for them to capture data quickly and easily. Those meetings with their customers, kind of being able to offer them a quote much quicker, much faster. To them it's really attractive. So again, we launched SmartQuote into the intermediary market, using those APIs that I talked about earlier, and we're able to integrate with a lot more now in that ecosystem. And we don't have to do that via kind of point-to-point connectivity anymore. We can just offer those APIs to our intermediaries, and in the same breath, I guess, we can offer that to other partners as well. And again, this is why we decided to produce those external APIs, because we saw that's the way the market's going, and I think really important and key to kind of driving efficiencies for your business. So I mentioned earlier, I think we introduced APIs into GI. All our integrations were kind of built on point-to-point connectivity. And I think you can kind of, I don't think this is different to any other insurance business. There's kind of get quote, get policy. You have the same journeys, the same kind of integrations across the piece, whether it's home, pet, landlord, or something else. This adds a lot of complexity to your estate, but ultimately you're kind of always reinventing the wheel when you do these point-to-point integrations, and you're not encouraging reuse. In any of those integrations whatsoever. So because of this, you drive a lot of duplication into your business. And again, this is really why we thought it was key to look at kind of an API approach. You're driving additional expense, time to implement change. It's not a great way of doing things, but it's how things have been done. Ultimately, I think I touched on this already, but ultimately, a lot of these requests are the same. Get a quote for something. It's data in, data out, and I think you can kind of see the reuse element here of collecting that data. In some cases, may be slightly different, but we think we can encourage a lot of reuse across the journeys, and get some of those core capabilities across GI. So the focus has become, how do we reuse those core capabilities across the business, reduce the costs, and increase the access to the data that we need to, and ultimately drive that reuse agenda that we've got. Therefore, instead of using point-to-point integrations, we've decided to use APIs internally. And I talked about this earlier in those ecosystems. That internal ecosystem is as important as the external one, because it drives the efficiencies in the business, and we can start to drive value and other great benefits to the business through that. Therefore, instead of using point-to-point integration, we decided to use those APIs internally, and I think I touched on this earlier. That internal ecosystem is as important as the external one, because it helps drive those efficiencies across your business, driving those cost savings, and ultimately driving reuse on the agenda, which is really, really important. If you can reuse those core capabilities across your business, you can see instead of duplicating journeys and things, we're able to simplify the landscape, which drives a lot of reusability, and like I said, hopefully lowers the costs across multiple product lines. It's a really important thing. Again, we're still driving down this route, but there's something we see as key. So, by using APIs as opposed to that kind of point-to-point integration we've talked about a lot today, we're starting to move away from that system platform-centric mindset, which I think Angie's touched on already today, which is really important. And we're moving towards a service-centric view. And what we're able to do via our technology as far as componentized architecture in the back end. And I think if you look at this, we're creating that experience layer over the top of those components and therefore driving that reuse via this method. And it's really, really important to us. This is combined with our kind of standardized entry point for our external APIs to our partners, means we're able to deliver consistently across multiple channels. Provide that same experience, because we want to generate and drive that consistent experience for all our partners. Therefore, we're not reinventing it constantly. We're always there. We've always got that reusable element. And sometimes, the partner might want a slightly different experience, but ultimately, the components that underpin all of that are the same and still driving that reuse agenda. Now, I think I touched on the role of culture and changing it earlier, and I think this is one of the really important areas for me and for other people that I've met in the insurance business. It's that resistance to change. So when we first introduced APIs as a simplified method of integration, one of those hurdles we had to kind of get over was how do you turn technical language or technical conversations into business speak? Enabling the business to understand what you're talking about. And I thought I'd share one of the methods myself and my team have used regularly, because we found this really effective. I guess it's an everyday thing. So we've taken that everyday situation, like Jennifer here placing her order for lunch, and the waiter or API, as we're kind of trying to translate this, delivering upon the request. And this is highly effective in that translation, because business people aren't necessarily interested in the ins and outs of our technology, but simplifying that message, i.e. they're ordering their lunch, they want a salad sandwich, that's delivering the parameters for your API communication. It's the same sort of method, if you like, and I guess we found this kind of diagram and speaking about it in this way has helped drive that knowledge across the business and getting a better understanding of what we're trying to do. And I think it's been really effective in driving that across the organisation and helping to achieve change. So what has this meant for LNGGI? Although the journey certainly isn't over, and we're definitely only at the start of this, I think what we have seen already is some clear benefits. We've seen the IT delivery around this kind of grow by 2.5 times. We're definitely delivering solutions a lot faster now because we're encouraging that reuse. In terms of operational costs, we're already realising a 30% time reduction on boarding and those kind of change costs, because we're driving those efficiencies, those standardizations across the integration to our partners, as well as 20%, I would say, cost reduction, a 15% reduction in the business as usual costs. From driving these approaches via API. We're seeing some really key things come out here, and I can only hope that they'll get better and improve, become more important to us. But most importantly, I think it's something I believe very strongly in. The use of APIs has attracted new partners because it's leading to those increased sales opportunities. Because I think partners look at you and see that you're kind of embellishing that technology into everything you're trying to do, the offerings you're providing, and that's what people want ultimately. Partners, customers, they want to use the best, they want to use the most modern, and I think driving those efficiencies through these channels and, like I said, adopting API has been really key to us. So I think a key question is why MuleSoft, and definitely I think once we'd identified that APIs were a means of driving integration and something we needed in the business, we went out and spoke to quite a few providers, and this was before we decided to partner with MuleSoft. But our decision ultimately came down to a number of key points. Firstly, we felt that MuleSoft and its product could drive and accelerate our IT delivery for projects now, but also those future projects that we don't yet know about. I think we certainly start to see that, as I mentioned earlier. Secondly, MuleSoft, they come with security and governance by default. It's built in, and I think that's something really important. You have to, security is a must these days. That governance is something you can't go without. So the fact that the platform has that from day one is a key to us as well. I think it's really important. I've talked about reusability all day. I'll probably sound really boring droning on about it, but that reusability is one of the really key elements. And I think having a reliable, scalable platform that provides better visibility of data flows is really key as well. And it's that reusability element that comes in and helps drive some of that. And finally, I guess the solution is future-proof. So as our business evolves into the future and we incorporate new technologies or offerings or channels, our integration strategy stays the same. We can drive all those efficiencies internally or externally via our API strategy and via our partner MuleSoft. And I think that's really key for us. We've seen that deliver time and time again. Next steps, we want to continue on that API journey. We want to encourage that reuse throughout. Something else that's really key to us is retraining our people, not kind of recruiting necessarily. We want to drive that knowledge and through the people that already work within the business, so we'll carry on doing that. And I think we want to carry on developing further benefits from our approach. We want to see more capabilities, more channels, more opportunities come from our API strategy and our approach. So that's it from me. Back over to Dan. Thanks very much for listening. I hope you found it entertaining. Cheers.
There we go. So let's take a look at some of your questions. Here's a good one, Ben. What are some of the biggest challenges your organisation faced when undergoing the operating model transformation, and how did you overcome them?
That's a good one, Dan. Yeah. Let me break this up a little. From my point of view, there are a number of challenges or opportunities, depending on how you see them. I think, kind of unique selling point, a reason for that change or adoption is really important. So simplification of the IT estate, new sales channel, cost benefits. I think you have to kind of definitely look in that space. Resource, that kind of talent, that ability, finding the right people. With the appropriate skill sets and mindset as well. I think that's really key, whether that's internally or externally. The business, those behaviours, the culture, the most common view around having to be from an insurance background. I think overcoming. I talked about culture earlier. I think overcoming that kind of view is really important. And I think the kind of new and changing part of the landscape. Convincing the sales force and the team that that's changing, it's evolving. Lots of other players coming to the table. There's lots of different organisations out there looking to kind of offer propositions now, under their brand. I think you kind of have to be a bit more open-minded to what's going on. That's my view, I think, at the moment.
Great, thanks, Ben. We've got another one here. What's the most in-demand service that isn't currently available, in your opinion?
The most in-demand service at the moment, I think probably kind of full service life cycle policy for an API for that, kind of that true self-service where you don't have to have any interaction with anyone. You can literally just do it all via those APIs. I think that's probably the one out there that, in my opinion, at the moment.
Great, fantastic. We've got another one here. So obviously security was a big theme throughout this presentation. How do you assess the security implications of creating external APIs within L&G GI?
In the first instance, I looked at the world we exist in today. Thousands of organisations operating in this way. Banking, as an example, they're using APIs to communicate between their applications and the user's mobile app. I'm pretty sure everyone's doing that these days. So I think it's clearly a strategy out there people are adopting, but I think it was clear from the outset when we were looking at this that we need to build APIs with security in mind. Kind of trust nothing and only allow the functionality required, rather than having a kind of open door. I think that was really really key in that space.
Great, awesome, thank you. We've got time for just one more question. Here's a really good one. How have you approached insurtechs today? Do you see them as a threat? Have you partnered with them in core internal functions, or maybe to launch new customer-facing offerings? What are your thoughts?
Insurtechs, yeah. Personally, I see them, as organisations changing the way things are done in the market. From my point of view, they should be learned from, partnered with, and in some cases outsourced to. I don't consider them as a threat as such. More changing the way business can be done, using modern technology and thinking to kind of disrupt that market. And it is ready for a shake-up. So I think it's insurtechs are a good thing from my point of view. It's about learning from them and, like I said, adapting and kind of keeping up with them. I guess that's what my view on that piece at the moment.
Great, thanks very much, Ben. So, I hope you've seen that from Ben and Angie's presentation that mindset is really key to digital transformation, and having a positive culture that inspires digital transformation and change is critical within the insurance market at the moment. Building an insurance platform is a way for our businesses to better unlock access to data across different product offerings and divisions, increase productivity via reuse. Ben really stressed this point, and it was critical to their integration approach going forward, and creating a unified customer experience. As Ben mentioned, and both Angie mentioned as well, customer experience nowadays is critical to building loyalty. I hope finally that you've taken from this webinar a modular back-end approach and a standardized approach to integration enables a digital front end and a better customer experience. So that's it for today's webinar. Thank you very much for all of you that have joined. Please continue to give your feedback where you can. Thank you very much for your questions. If we didn't get a chance to come to your question, we will try and answer as many as we can via email. And until next time, goodbye.